Hello, everyone. This is Robb Fahrion with another episode of the Sage Executive Podcast, where we bring on top executives and business leaders, and they share their sage advice. We ask 6 questions over about the course of 10 minutes because the wise speak in few words. I've got a really great guest today. I'm really excited to hear from him and his story and what he's all about. So let's get right into it. In a few sentences, Robert, would you mind telling us who you are and what it is you do?
Yeah, my name is Robert Menendez. I'm co-founder and COO of Vezt, the world's first royalties marketplace. And we're trying to bring value to creators and intellectual property in a very direct way.
Great. Would you mind, just researching Vezt a little bit? Would you mind kind of elaborating about, what it is you guys are doing, or maybe that elevator pitch? And because I know it's a very unique product, I had never seen anything like it in the market. But just tell us a little bit more about the business and the model.
Yeah, we allow fans to buy into royalties of their favorite music, and in general, we've had songs by Kanye, by Drake, Jay-Z. It's any of the people. Let me take a step back. Music is fractionally owned to begin with. The record labels, the artists, the writer, the producers, all these people in the ecosystem. And that intellectual property has value. And allowing to hypothecate that as an asset and allowing the fans to participate in the excitement of a song becoming a hit or a song earning is the platform that we built out in an effort to allow creators in general the freedom to continue to create, irregardless of what perhaps a record label might think, or just the powers that be in general. If you have a fan base and your fans want to continue to see you create, you can do that through our app.
Yeah, I noticed something unique about the ISO, right? Initial song offering. Can you tell listeners a little bit more about that? Assuming it's similar IPO, I've heard of ICO, on the coin side. So yeah, just curious a little bit more about that as well.
We wanted to create a sense of excitement and a focal point for the fans to be able to gather around a certain offering. And so we wanted to have it for a limited time, and we wanted to make it available pro rata to fans. So you can participate in any denomination. So if you're a kid at Starbucks and you're passionate about music and you feel like you're really good at music selection, or you just want to support your artist, the ISO is an opportunity to do so. So you could come in with $5, you could come in with $1,000. We've had people, we sold out $50,000 of a Beyonce song. Right. So to me, music is just not for the wealthy. It's kind of like, it's an uncorrelated asset that everybody understands. It's a part of everyone's life. I think It's also a great on-ramp for communities in general to get an understanding on finance and residuals and just, more knowledge on money and how money can make you money, if you will.
Right. That's great. No, I love that. Thanks for sharing. So transitioning a little bit, I know this thing is second venture, at least that we've talked about, right? And being an executive in that role, what would you say is the best part for you about being a leader, being at that executive level, and being in charge of a team?
I think the most important thing that I've learned through the course of 2 startups is to dislodge yourself from feeling like you're always right, and to afford yourself to be able to listen to your team and also know when you kind of have to push through. It's an interesting combination or an interesting skill set to acquire, which is one, to admit that you're not always right, and also, on the other hand, to push through regardless of other people's opinions.
Right.
And it's a hard balancing act. And I don't know if it's, when I worked at larger companies, I worked at Oppenheimer, it wasn't so much like that. You're a cog in the wheel.
Right.
In a startup, sometimes you have to make these decisions, these pivots that affect everyone. And 90% of your team will be like, you're crazy. That's the dumbest thing we've ever. And regardless of that opinion, you decide to go that way. Right. And in other cases, those opinions, if you allow them to if you process them, not just disregard them, could actually lead to you making decisions that are beneficial. So it's understanding that balance.
Right.
When you've taken everything in and you make an executive decision, which is kind of the process that I use, versus just being dismissive and going.
Right. Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up, right? Is like, okay, what goes into determining one way or the other, right? Is it a feel? Is it a data? Or I'm assuming, like you mentioned, it's taking in all the different opinions, data points, whatever those might be in order to make the best decision.
Lies. I mean, data never lies. I mean, anyone that does online marketing or, runs any kind of framework that is designed to touch people online understands what a conversion rate is and how all of that plays into everything, right? So if people aren't feeling your product and they're not into your product, the numbers are going to tell you, regardless of what you may want to do. The data will tell you, if it's working.
No, I love that. So you're in obviously a very competitive space, right? You're in the tech space, the music space, the app space, a lot of noise, a lot of competitors, a lot of different things, moving parts. What have you guys done as a team to, make some waves, get people to hear about you, acquire new users, right? What have you maybe done differently, or what is your approach to making a name for yourself as a new startup in such competitive areas?
Well, one thing that we did at the beginning is we threw a lot of events and concerts because the music industry is overall kind of jaded.
Sure.
And I don't blame them because, you hear these stories of musicians, writers, producers putting something together and then at the end of the day not making any money off of it, but other people have. And that is a very true analogy for a lot of the industry. People think that their favorite rapper, their favorite rock star is swimming in money. And in a lot of cases, that's not the case when you start looking at the distribution of royalties and the distribution of intellectual property in general.
Right.
So we threw a lot of events to convince them that we weren't the enemy, that we were building something for them. And then we continue to do events and continue to do online marketing. And, the online marketing worked a lot better in conveying our story and sharing our story. I mean, it's very true when people say you could sell anything online. It's just a matter of how much it's going to cost you to convert. So I think for us, what really worked was changing the story through social media, through our marketing campaigns. We have 200,000 downloads. It took quite a bit of time to get there, and we financed over $1 million worth of intellectual property. And it was just seeing, how do we get people to understand that the songs that they love could actually be a way to, it's not affected by the economy. It's an uncorrelated asset, and you can support an artist, and at the same time, it doesn't go down in value. Your risk is time, really. Like if I put $100 into a song, I may make money, but it may take longer than I expected if the song doesn't perform as well. But you will recoup that money. It may just take you 6 months, a year longer, a week longer.
Right. So with, that leads me to, my question to that is obviously with 2020, you got COVID-19, coronavirus, that whole thing, events, right? Whether they're happening, if they are happening, they're obviously at a much smaller scale, right? So I'm assuming you guys have shifted even more so to that digital focus, digital marketing and advertising. But would you also say that this has presented an opportunity for those artists that also used to rely on, just even smaller gigs, opening acts that all of a sudden are gone, right? And are not available, or at least not as many are available. So do you think that you guys offer something to those types of artists that, haven't made it, right? Or maybe we're starting to bud and, here everything happens in 2020. It seems like Vezt would be a great opportunity for those types of artists.
I think the COVID situation for musicians has forced a lot of them to think outside of the box in reference to their boots on the ground, which is touring. Touring is the machine that really, it's the tail that wags the dog. People don't think about it. Mm-hmm. But touring is how a lot of musicians, especially legacy artists, continue to put food on the table. So I think, understanding that you can do an online concert, that you can get paid online, I think that's been really beneficial for us because out of necessity, they're being more open-minded in, how they can get money in the door.
Right.
So yes, I think the industry itself, Dua Lipa is doing a show called Club 2054. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to do, and these are just from our estimates when we process our data, probably going to do like $40 million, $50 million.
Wow.
Now, once Dua does it and other artists start to see there's no bus, there's no tour, no missing my family for a year, touring isn't like it's the same thing again and again. Like even when you're doing your company and you're going from event to event to talk about it, it's not what people think. You're not on vacation. You're not. It's like back to back to back. It's a hotel. It's a restaurant.
Grind.
Yeah. And I think that when people start to see the possibilities of being able to have 300,000 people globally, which isn't a lot of people, attend a show, and you're able to make money or parcel out some of your song for your fans to consume so you can bring money in so you can continue to pay the bills. It's an interesting narrative of what you can value yourself now without needing these other distribution channels that you used to have to rely on.
Right. Does Vezt help support the exposure for the artists if they do have a song or an ISO on the platform, right? Or is that exposure being driven from the artist team or their marketing and advertising? How does that work?
It's a very good question. We are not a streaming app, so we allow fans to buy into those royalties. The fans can stream and share the content. I mean, we just launched a YouTube vertical, actually. We're allowing YouTube channels to come in and raise money and share some of the royalties. And there, on the few betas that we have done, we've actually seen subscribers come in. The problem with music on the data collection side is that it's very hard to verify if a $50,000 raise or a $20,000 raise has unequivocally affected the streaming component. But with YouTube, because we have access to the back end, I can tell from when the campaign started,
right? There's
50 new subscribers, right? And that IP sold out. And you could see that direct correlation between when it was launched to when it moves forward. The music, we just don't have, it's such a, I don't want to call it a broken system, but the Pandora's box, the data behind Spotify, and you're really not afforded that information. You could have an idea, but they're not going to tell you specifically, Bob streamed your song in Ohio.
Right. Right. Great. Yeah, it's super interesting. I'm sure we could talk about this all day, but yeah.
A hairless cat. So if people think there's a rat coming across
no worries. Screen, no, it's been great doing this during this period of time. I got girlfriends or wives walking in or husbands or dogs barking in the background, whatever it may be, no problem. So moving on, advice, right? So obviously you've multiple startups, right? Got a successful thing going with Vezt. Very impressive in the work that you guys have done. And I know the development that's gone into the app as well. What would you say is your number one piece of advice that you would give to either other executives, entrepreneurs, business leaders that they can take with them?
Yeah, be comfortable with failure and understand that it's not a negative thing. And you got to, if you're doing this for the money, don't do it. If you're doing it because you have a drive inside of you that wants to create and affect things around you, just be ready to understand that it's lonely on the executive level or as a co-founder, and that failure is just going to be a part of everything that you do. But it doesn't mean that you're a failure. I mean, like, I believe most startups, fail the first year. Mm-hmm. I think out of even most successful people with startups, it's like their 10th company out of 9 that they ran and operated. I mean, the statistics are very daunting. Right. But if you know that going in and you're willing to accept, it's like that Rocky Balboa, like that, if you allow it, it's just going to beat you up. But if you're okay understanding that, not having it, I don't want to say take it personal, because when you're building something, you take it personal. But just understanding that failing within the process of building something doesn't mean that your idea or your concept isn't of value or it can't get somewhere. You just got to be prepared for the emotional toll.
Right. No, that's great advice. So with that being said, we're obviously trying to bring on new guests similar to yourself. This has been a great interview up until this point. Are there any others that you'd acknowledge as leaders in the space, people that might have some great insights or advice that we could bring on as a guest on the show? I'd
love to. We're friendly with the CEO of Trilla through my chief growth officer, who himself would be a great person to interview. My business partner, Steve Stewart, managed Stone Temple Pilots, 24 other bands.
Yeah.
There's the CEO of Zeta, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. His partner is the ex-CEO of Apple. Very, very bright guy into online marketing as far as like email marketing, created this massive multi-billion-dollar company, allowing companies to touch and to communicate through marketing strategies that land in people's emails and on their products.
Right.
So yeah, I'd be happy to do, or if you want to rock and roll, I mean, I don't know. I'm in an interesting intersection, I would say.
I love it.
So from tech to finance.
Yeah, that's what you're telling me too. You background in trading, right? How did that transition happen?
I know it's a dumb thing to say, but I got really tired of moving decimals for really wealthy people, because that's what a hedge fund ultimately does. Right. And I felt if I die tomorrow, what have I really done? And it wasn't about succeeding at something. It was more about who I felt as a person inside. And am I fulfilled? And I was living in New York. I lived in New York for almost 10 years. And I love the city, but I felt, I got my Series 7 at 24. I was in finance at 23, 48. At some point, I just wanted to explore more of me.
Right.
Really what it came down to.
That's awesome. Good for you. So to wrap up, it's probably a great segue into this final question. Fun one here. I'd see what type of personality in terms of when you win, what is it that you like to do to celebrate after a big win, whether personal, business, whatever related it may be?
I'll tell you, I like taking my friends out to dinner. It's a weird thing about me, and anybody these could be really interesting nights because I have a very eclectic group of friends. But if something really good happens in my life, I really enjoy sharing that with people I've known for 10, 15 years. To me, there's nothing better than, some good wine and some good company. And I'm a sucker for that. And that's how I love to celebrate. I'm not, I like to reward myself, but I like to include people that I care about.
Sure.
And to me, it's either like a trip somewhere, or we'll have a big dinner, and we'll make almost like a little mini event. Because why work so hard if you can't have some emotional up? If you're just saving that good bottle of wine for a day that never comes sometimes.
Right. So I hear that a lot when we ask that question, right? And I think that would be my celebration too, right? Is win, dinner. I'm a wine guy too, so I always put people on the spot. Where's the dinner and what's the bottle of wine?
And what's the bottle, right? Yeah. It's a beautiful thing to have good friends that last a really long time. And like business or marriage, it takes work. You have to have people that are willing to call you out, that you've known for a long time. And having lived in LA for a while, in these industries, it's rare. It's hard to find someone that really likes you for who you are.
Right.
Kind of find out when you're moving. You said, you're going to be moving soon. In LA, you're throwing a party, everyone shows up. If you're like, hey, Rob, I'm moving. Oh, my back. So to me, friendship is a super important part of just, my life, the people that I care about.
Yeah, no, I can tell that definitely comes through. Well, Robert, hey, thank you so much for being on. This was a awesome quick interview, and appreciate all the insight, telling us more about the work that you're doing. How can people find out more about you, more about the business, whether website, email, whatever may be best?
You can go on www.vezt.co and Robert at vezt.co. We're fairly easy to find. We're also on YouTube. We're in the App Store, Android and iOS. And reach out. Good luck with pursuing your dreams, and get in the fight.
Yeah, we'll definitely we'll link to all that, everyone, so you'll have that and readily available to go check out more about Robert and his work. So thanks everyone again. My name is Robb Fahrion with another episode of the Sage Executive Podcast. For more insights and to check out more episodes of the show, visit us at flyingvgroup.com/podcast. Robert, thanks so much again. Really appreciated chatting with you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Bye.